Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and I'm filming with the front-facing camera of the Galaxy Note 8. I've been using it for about a week, and I have some good things and a few bad things to go over. So let's start with the good things.
The first good thing is the design. The design is obviously a Note. You've got the large size, and you've got a nice huge display. You've got a little more squared off corners than you do with the Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus, but it falls in line with the family of Samsung Galaxy phones. It's really a premium design and build quality with metal around the edges, glass front and back. And on this side, you've got your volume button, your Bixby button. On the bottom, you have your USB-C port, your speaker, a microphone, a headphone jack. Thank you, Samsung. Very appreciative of that. You've got your S Pen. And then on the back, you've got your dual cameras that are optically image stabilized. You've got your fingerprint reader. And on the top, you've got your SIM card slot with expandable storage and your microphone. The front of this has your speaker for your earphone, and then your front-facing camera and your IR blaster sensor that allows you to basically scan your retinas or your face. Now let's go ahead and unlock this, and the second positive is its display. The display is a 6.3-inch display. It's a Quad HD Plus Super AMOLED. It's 2960 by 1440 with 521 pixels per inch. Every single person I've shown this to said this is a very impressive display. It's impressive not only just because it's big, but it just looks really, really nice. It's plenty bright in sunlight. It looks great overall. It is a little saturated for some people, but in general, colors pop. It looks great. And I'm not running Samsung's theme. I'm using the Google Now theme or skin on this phone because I don't really care for the TouchWiz screen or display, but I like the little slight side in from the side or the app edge. And I also like the little S Pen notification thing you get here, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But other than that, it lets me use all of those things, and then I can have my own theme. And of course, that's one great thing about Android. So the next great thing about this, or good thing about this, is the S Pen. The S Pen is really high quality. It's very similar to the previous versions. It's metal on top, and you can't put it in backwards and get it stuck. So that's been addressed. Now you have some new features in here, such as live message. You've got Bixby Vision and Translate, but let's take a look at live message. It's extremely accurate. You can see I put hey before. I can replay. Let's try that again. Let's go back, change the color. Maybe we'll change it to this, and I'll say hello. And if I hit play, you can see how I wrote it. Now, the nice thing about this is I can share it as a GIF or a GIF. So if I hit this, actually not that, let's go back. If I want to share this, I hit done. It takes a moment to process it. It turns it into a GIF. And we wait a second, and it's saved. So that part's nice. We hit share, and then we can share it to whoever we'd like. It's very intuitive. And then, of course, we have other options such as screen sharing. So Smart Select, Screen Write, so it'll snap a screen picture, and then we can circle that. One nice feature with the S Pen is if your phone is off, you pop out the S Pen, you can write right on the screen immediately and then save it later in your notes. It's one of those nice features that it just makes things a little bit easier when you want to use your device and the pen. So if you're used to using the pen, that's a great way to get right into notes when you need to take something quick. The next positive is the camera. The camera on this is really impressive. I've had no issues with it, and it's dual image optical stabilized. So we've got great quality, great pictures, and you've got a new thing called live focus. I'm not crazy about that, and I'll show you that in a moment, but we have a lot of options like you'd expect. Auto, Pro, Panorama, Slow-Mo, things like that you'd expect on this. Also a lot of features. So we've got a 4K camera in the back, a 1440p camera on the front, and you've got all sorts of different options, just like you expect with a Samsung camera. These are photos I took today, and you can see they're nice and clear. On this display, they're going to look great because it's a great display. But we go here, and here's one we can adjust focus. Actually, the next one I think we can adjust the focus on. And I've used different lenses on this. You can see this is one lens, this is wide. The quality is just great. If I zoom in, it's pretty detailed until you get really close. And it just looks great. So let's go back to the camera so we can make some adjustments. So we go into here, and we can go in here and make some adjustments. So let's go to this one, and we've got close-up and wide angle. It took 2 pictures at once. So we've got close-up, wide angle, and then we can adjust the blur in the background. So if we go to close-up, adjust background blur, let's hit that again, adjust background blur, and it's a fake blur. It's not great, and in some ways it's a little bit better. You'll see it blurs over here, turns off, so we can adjust it however we'd like. It's something you could do in Photoshop afterwards. It looks bad if you turn it all the way up, but if you leave it halfway, it's not too bad. You also have a bunch of different options down here as well. So you've got a bunch of different filters, stickers, all sorts of things just built in that make your photos that much better. The video is really great on it too. It's stabilized for that, and I took a couple videos walking down this trail. Let me show you those now.
I'm walking along this trail, and this camera actually uses optical image stabilization on both the 1x and the 2x camera. So you can see it's being stabilized. It works okay. With it being zoomed in, it's going to work a little bit worse. But if I zoom back out, it looks pretty stable. This phone has very fast focus. I can focus on the sign, focus in the distance on the left, and it changes really quickly. Now if I bring this up closer, you'll see I can do the same. Put this sign in focus, put the tree behind it in focus, and it changes pretty quickly as I change between the 2 focal points.
The next positive is the battery. Battery life on this, even though it's only a 3300 milliamp hour battery, which is large in comparison to some other phones, but given its display and compared to the Note 7, it's a little bit smaller. But the battery is fantastic. It easily goes all day, and many times will beat out my iPhone 7 Plus, which I generally get a long battery life on. So it's very good, and I can't complain. When you have a time to charge or you need to charge and you have a wireless charger around, set it on the wireless charger, and you're good to go. It charges wirelessly, and you can just leave it there and move on throughout your day, and just plug it in at night. It lasts a very long time, and I definitely can't complain about that. Now, Samsung claims video playback up to 16 hours, talk time up to 22 hours, internet use with Wi-Fi up to 14 hours. I believe most of those numbers. They may be a little bit more than what you'll get in reality, but they're quite good and fairly close. Finally, the next or last positive thing is this is a really fast device. I've had no slowdown whatsoever. It feels much faster than my iPhone in many cases, and things just open really quickly, fluidly, no issues whatsoever there. If I go into, we'll say, Twitter, go home, go into maybe Play Newsstand, takes a moment. On this particular device, I don't think I've used it, so it's going to optimize. So that's probably a bad example. But if we go into Feed Mesh, or we go back out to Flipboard, it's just overly fast everywhere you go. It doesn't feel slow, and then, of course, you can just close all those apps at once. No problems whatsoever. It feels fast and modern all of the time. Now let's get on to the negatives. The first negative is probably pretty obvious, and that's the price. This is a $960 phone for the most part, depending on where you get it. If you get it from T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, you're going to pay after tax, if you buy it outright, about $1,000, maybe a little bit more. So it's a very expensive phone. It feels very premium, but for that price, that is a lot of money, especially when you can get a Galaxy S8 or S8 Plus for a lot less if you don't need that stylus. So that is one of the major negatives, or probably the most negative thing about this phone. The next thing is it's huge. It feels big in the hand every single time, and some people love giant phones, but let me put it next to an iPhone 7 Plus. We'll put it face down, and you'll see the 7 Plus is actually a little bit smaller when it comes to the height of it, and then when it comes to the width of it, well, it's a little bit narrower than a 7 Plus, but it just feels really big and heavy. That's the third negative. It's really heavy. It's 6.88 ounces or 195 grams. So it feels hefty, and with a case on it, it's going to feel even heavier and larger. And that's my next negative, is it has a glass back, which feels really nice in your hand and allows for better wireless charging, but also is more fragile and more break prone when you drop it, or if you drop it or bang it into something. So it definitely feels like it needs some sort of case on it or skin just to be careful if you bump it into something, just to make it a little bit safer using this. The next negative is it runs Android 7.1 or 7.1.1. So if we go to About the phone, you'll see that it's running Android 7.1.1. And because of that, it is one step behind what's actually available on Nexus devices or Pixel devices. So if you've got one of those, you're always going to be a little bit further ahead, and the update cycles have gotten better on Samsung, but they're still not as fast as Google puts them out. So that's a negative, but for some people that's not a big deal, but it's just something I thought I'd mention since it's hard to find negatives about this phone. The final negative I have is the fingerprint sensor location. While I thought I'd be fine with it, as I was with the Galaxy S8 Plus, this phone's a little bit taller, so it's a little bit harder to reach. So depending on how big your hands are, this is going to be very hard to reach this. So you're going to want to usually depend on the forward-facing face recognition or iris recognition, which sometimes can be a little bit slow. But if you can reach it, as I can, I have to move my hand up a little bit, reach that fingerprint sensor, and it works fine. It's just a negative for most, and it doesn't feel too different from the different cameras. So it's not dissimilar enough that you can really differentiate the two. You can a little bit, but it would be better if it was right here and they just moved the word Samsung up a little bit or put a better placement right here for the fingerprint sensor. Other than those negatives, there's not a whole lot more I can say negative about this device. It's great for phone calls. So many more positives I could have gone over, but I wanted to pick the major ones that help differentiate it a little bit from its competition with its S Pen and its cameras, things like that. This is a great device, and I highly recommend it to anyone that's willing to spend the price that it takes to actually pick one of these up. But let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say about the Note 8 if you've used it. The Note 7 was great, but we all know what happened with that. This one is a great and worthy successor to that. Let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe and like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.